everyone, and welcome to the AwardsWatch podcast. I'm your host, editor-in-chief of AwardsWatch, Erik Anderson, and we have an all-editors Oscar podcast again today. We're going to talk about the International Feature Film Race, as well as give a little preview of the New York Film Festival, which is just about to kick off. And we're all coming to you from New York, not just Sophia this time, but myself and executive editor Ryan McQuade. Hi, Ryan.
It's been waiting for you. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. Just for Sophia. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm stunned.
So this is a good time to announce that there is an open position for executive editor at AwardsWatch. So please
Um,
just DM me, send me a carrier pigeon message, whatever you
you're
like.
gonna do that, and then you're gonna get a lot of weird people in your DMs this week. So
Well,
just wait for that. Merry Christmas, everybody.
yes, we'll talk about Christmas later.
Yes,
And
we
yes,
will.
as mentioned, associate editor Sophia Ciminello. Hello, Sophia.
Hello, hello, hello.
And yes, we are all in New York ahead of the New York Film Festival, and we will talk about that in a little bit. But as we carve out section by section of our Oscar talk and Oscar predictions, it's definitely time to look at the international feature film race. We've got 71 submissions right now, which we usually hover around 90 as the final total. And most large country major submissions have been selected. There's a handful of outliers, including the UK, a recent winner. So I think there's a lot of attention that will be paid uh, to the UK as a recent winner. But each year is feeling like this race and Best Picture are becoming closer and closer tied. We're seeing more international features in Best Picture. And I think we're kind of, while it might not be this year, anticipating the next one to be able to win Best Picture as well. But what I think this year is going to give us is one of the most competitive races in this category because we have major, major titles, including virtually everything that won at Cannes this year, from the Palme d'Or to director to grand prize, jury prize. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to choose from. And I think we'll also have to talk about a near monopoly that one studio has on the majority of these contenders. And I'm talking about Neon, which picked up quite a few Cannes titles at Cannes and really is in a position to potentially have three or maybe even four of the five nominees. But as we know, that short list of 15 will be what we go from. But I want to throw to you guys first. I know we'll talk about those big can titles like It Was Just an Accident, Sentimental Value, The Secret Agent, Sound of Falling. Those are all submissions from their countries. Is there something that you are looking at outside of those right now that might sneak in a way that makes sense for the history of this category? Sophia, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the big one for me is really the voice of Hin Rajab, which played at Venice and then also at TIFF. So the director of this film, Kauter Ben Hania, she has had two films in the international feature race previously, The Man Who Sold His Skin and Four Daughters. And just based on the reception, really, of this film and the topics that it's going into, especially with the genocide right now in Palestine, this is, I think, something that we could see really breaking into the five. This is Tunisia's submission, and I think she'll be really three for three here.
There's an interesting fact with that, and very similar to the documentary No Other Land last year.
Hmm.
One of the most well regarded and reviewed of the year, and struggled with US distribution because everybody was very scared to do it. The freshness of October 7th was really on everyone's minds, but I think things have shifted pretty dramatically in a pro-Palestine favor. And even though that film is still without distribution, I think it's going to find it in a proper way. It does have Watermelon Pictures is behind it. But I think what No Other Land proved is that you do not need a Neon, a Netflix, a Sony Pictures Classics in order to get in and win. Ryan, what's a title or a couple titles that you think we should be taking a look at?
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of these titles are films that maybe the listeners have heard when we've talked about it on the Can episode or from Telluride or TIFF or Venice. But I'm really curious about Left-Handed Girl, and the reason why is because that's Netflix's really only way to get into this race because it was just an accident, was picked up by France and they had Nouvelle Vague. So, and that could be something too, where, I mean, Eric, to your point, we have to look at some of these other films um, because of Neon's domination of buying all those titles. Netflix is usually really good at least getting one or two in documentary, in international feature. Really try to, their nomination, haul is usually pretty substantial, and that one is coming off of of the fact that one of its producers and co-writers, if I'm not mistaken, also too is Sean Baker, and who dominated last year with Honora. The film had pretty favorable reviews out of Cannes, did really well at TIFF. So that's a film that I would actively keep an eye on. Eric, I know you didn't mention it amongst the giant Cannes titles, so I guess then we can mention it here. But I mean, unless you want to save No Other Choice for a minute to talk about it with Neon, we can do that. But that one I think is kind of interesting because like it not getting the Venice prizes that we kind of hoped that it would. And Sophia and I talked about that on the TIFF episode, but it getting the international prize at TIFF was a big favor for it. But then I think about Decision to Leave, and I think about that being in a very competitive year. I think about that getting pushed literally aside, it being a critics thing, it being something that we want to happen and want to anoint. And that's the other thing is like we can want some of these certain films to get in there, like the Mysterious Gaze of Flamingo is another film out of Cannes that I know Eric loved, that we'd love to see probably get into this field. But those big titles loom so large over this field already. I think No Other Choices is one that can go all the way in to get nominations, but then that means that one of those big other three that from Cannes, from Neon, I think have to falter, which I kind of feel like one is a little bit already.
Yeah, absolutely, and we can definitely expand more on No Other Choice and Neon's kind of overall haul of titles here. I'm keeping an eye on Mr. Nobody Against Putin from Denmark, documentary, obviously a very timely subject, and Denmark is just extraordinary in this category. Uh, One of the
Also,
older
crossover
films. Yeah,
potential in two categories, which happens a
abs
lot now.
absolutely. There's a couple of animated
Hmm.
titles, there's a couple of documentary titles. But yeah, Denmark is really good at this. They've won four. They've been nominated 14 times. They're really, really good. I think, something that we have talked about since Cannes was The President's Cake from Iraq. I think that's definitely going to make it into the short list. But Iraq is
Yep.
a country that's never
Hmm.
been nominated. But I don't know. I feel like maybe it not I don't want to say that it lost steam. It's hard to say that in context with this, but it was a prize winner at Cannes and it was at TIFF, I believe. But
Yeah, I don't know, Sophia, maybe you heard anything, but I didn't hear anything about it,
I
yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, I didn't, especially compared to
Not even a
Cannes, where I
slice.
feel like that
Yeah.
was buzzy
Yeah.
and people kept talking about, oh, you have to see The President's Cake. I didn't hear that at all at TIFF. The interesting thing about that one for me is just how great the title is. And sometimes we do see sneaky films with great titles pop up. I'm
Yep.
thinking of Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, which was a
Man.
surprise
Oh man,
nomination.
all that yak.
I liked that movie. I know. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting you bringing up Denmark, Eric, just makes me I am a little bit more, I think, dubious of No Other Choices chances
Yeah.
than other people who are super high on the movie.
Yeah.
And that really
I'm
is just
very.
because South Korea, as a
Yeah.
country, we just have Parasite. That is literally the
It,
only
correct.
example.
Correct.
And I think that this film is it was so well received, but I loved Decision to Leave much more than No Other Choice. And to see that go the distance all season, get a BAFTA nomination, pick up prizes with critics, see director Park nominated or winning critics prizes in places, and then to just knock it in favor of some other titles we might not have expected. I can't help but worry that that could be the same fate for No Other Choice, especially considering what else Neon has on their plate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I think
and yeah,
I think you're
definitely
right. Yeah.
to your point about the titles, that's also something I'm always now looking at, with each year is there something that the title's going to at least get somebody in the door to be interested. And yeah, The President's Cake is that. The Mysterious Gaze of the Flamingo definitely has that
Totally.
That's
that
totally why I brought
vibe.
it up. Yeah.
The Altar Boy, the Priest, and the Gardener, which, sounds like the beginning of a joke. There aren't
Or
a whole lot,
or
but there's a couple.
some of the characters in Wake Up Dead Man. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it just yeah. There you go.
there you
So
go.
it's there's that. So those two, have potential to at least, that a fun or cheeky title only takes you so far. But again, if you can if it gets somebody to see it because of it, it's already in a better place.
Well, that is
Um,
true because, like, I mean, if they're at home watching that mandatory screening platform, a title is going to jump out. And I do think No Other Choice will do well in word of mouth. I think it's also a little bit more of a digestible film, I guess, than Decision to Leave for most people. Like it's not a slow burn. It's more entertaining, more comedic, satire. We've seen those play well. But I agree with you, Sophia. Like that is a movie that has to overcome its own history, it has to overcome its own studio, has to overcome a lot of obstacles, but it is gaining popularity at every festival, and it has a little bit of that buzz, momentum for it. So it'll be interesting once we talk about New York here in the aftermath of New York here in the next couple of weeks, what the audiences here thought of it, because the Toronto audience obviously went over the hills for it. Outside of Alexander Payne, everybody at Venice really liked it as well. So, it could just carry its momentum, and it also will be in another place where it will be around those other neon titles here at New York. And so, and I know New York doesn't give out prizes, but we hear things at parties and buzz and talk to people. And that could be very interesting for those films and just other international features, because New York is such a great place to showcase all these international selections before we start the shortlists.
yeah, for sure. Well, then let's since we've been talking about it and naming titles, let's actually look at Neon's real slate here. They have five country submissions: Brazil, France, Norway, South Korea, and Spain. Um, I I'm I'm wondering how many they can get in. I think obviously uh Sentimental Value, Norway submission is locked and loaded. It's a potentially pretty easy winner because it will probably do very well in other categories above the line.
Sure. That doesn't
I
mean it's going to win, though.
I think it has very good winner potential.
Well, I mean, last year the nomination leader on the morning one, and yeah,
That's
avid
not what I
controversy,
said.
but no,
That's
but
not what I
Carla
said, is
Sophia
it?
Gascon is not in Sentimental Value.
Exactly.
that we
Yeah.
know of.
Yeah, unless Stellan
Just saying,
Skarsgård has some pretty rancid tweets, I think they're pretty good, doing
Neon,
pretty
check the
well.
Twitter
But yeah, check it just in case.
just in case.
You never know what that crazy Elle Fanning might be having in her circles. I don't know.
Dakota, yeah, yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm just
But
kidding.
but yes, let's look at those five because they are all outside of No Other Choice can winners. They're
Yeah,
really major films that are going to dominate the conversation and the visibility. Um, what do you see outside of Sentimental Value? If you were doing your five like right now, how many of these neon titles do you think are realistically going to get in when you have uh that Denmark and Iraq and Tunisia
Germany,
and
yeah.
Germany,
Hmm.
Sound of
Sound of
Falling,
Falling,
exactly.
which is one I do think can and potentially will get in. Um,
I
Yeah,
I,
hope
I,
so.
I think that they can get three. I really do. Now, it is. I do not think it will be Surat. And I think Surat is a pretty challenging film, and I don't think that the. I think No Other Choice has a better chance than Surat, just to base off on the quality of film, the type of film. I was shocked. I mean, Eric and I are on the low end of that film. I know Sophia's going to see it soon. But I I think Sentimental Value is very much in for them. And then it was just an accident is pretty damn close as well. So I think two are very secure. Then it becomes a debate. Can Does Brazil get Secret Agent in again, following off of the success of last year, the previous country winner in this category, and the campaigning and the steam that they had behind that? Or does South Korea make get No Other Choice in, or is it just two, and or is it something else? That makes up those other three spots. So I'm confident right now. I mean, I have Secret Agent in, but I'm feeling that No Other Choice might be the one that I switch it with. I don't have more than three. I think that the idea of putting out there that they could get four or they could get all five is a fool's errand. It might be safer on in terms of just predict all five and see what you get, on Oscar morning on your Gold Derby predictions or whatever. But I don't think that's not how they're going to play it. And they also like to spread it around. And other studios are very good and won't have to juggle four or five titles. They'll have specifically one title that they'll get to push out there, like Netflix, like even Mubi. With I think that they'll push Sound of Falling pretty hard, so yeah, I think that it's most likely two, but I have three in there right now.
Sophia, what do you think of
I
those five?
have, yeah, I have Sentimental Value, and it was just an accident right now in my one and two in the category because I think what we've seen across festivals also is the really intense director campaign happening for Jafar Panahi,
Yeah,
also with just talks and
he's
his
talked.
presence at festivals is just it just feels so significant. And I think that's a huge deal. And not just for his Best Director campaign, but for that film overall. So, I mean, I think those two right now feel really good to me. And then I really am. I'm just going with the secret agent right now over No Other Choice. And that might sound unwise, but I'm just going with the country's recent history in the category. I think the potential in director and actor is a bit stronger there, even for me,
Even below
just
the
based on
line. Yeah,
how digestible that material is. I know that, it is like No Other Choice is a fun satire, but I think that, The Secret Agent is much more in the Academy's wheelhouse traditionally and historically. It hasn't been playing as well as I expected at some festivals, but I still think that I don't know, I think it has strength. And just again, based on my fears around, some of my favorite films missing, like burning or decision to leave because they're these, Korean thrillers, and those are slow burns, yes. I'm just gonna go with those three right now of Sentimental, if it was just an accident, and The Secret Agent, and then leave my other two spots open for other distributors to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to be too get along gang, but yeah, that is exactly where I'm at as well with those three. And I think it's very realistic that those three are able to get in. They really represent a great cross section of films. And I think the neon element of it is not going to be a factor for anyone that's voting. We're looking at it really just from the outside in. But yeah, I think those are the ones that are going to be able to really kind of run with it. But it is interesting to see which of these titles, as they continue on their festival journeys before their fall releases, are or aren't kind of getting a lot of attention. Because yeah, The Secret Agent sort of was really quiet at Telluride. Um, which was a bit of a surprise. Even even accident to a smaller extent because sort of like you said, Sophia, the attention is entirely around Jafar Panahi and everything that is behind him getting him to any of these festivals. He's in New York for the first time in 25 years with the talk that he's going to do here. There's that narrative has definitely overwhelmed I think the film itself, which it shouldn't because the film is so good. So hopefully there can be sort of this balance where it's not just about him as a director, but it is also about the film.
I think they're connected though. I do. I think that like if you are pushing Panahi, like all of his talks are tied to this film and are usually tied to screenings of the film. And so I think they go hand in hand. It really is just one of those cases where, like we talk about each year, it's like you look at a particular film and what is the standout component? Who is the person to celebrate from that? I think that for this film, it is Panahi, and it's like they're kind of interchangeable. So if you're embracing him, you're also embracing this movie, I think.
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, it's been the most celebrated of the three titles because it won the Palme d'Or. He wins the medallion at Telluride. Um, I
It
mean,
didn't place at TIFF though,
it didn't place
interestingly.
at TIFF, which is very interesting because that was early in the fest. It was like, and the people that I did talk to absolutely loved it. But again, that's where no other choice comes in, and that really kind of swept in. I mean, the no other choice line at TIFF for those screenings were sold out immediately. Wrap, kind of just like what we've known with the neon titles. The in demand ticket was no other choice. So that's very, and also the to your point, Eric and Sophia, the reception for Secret Agent has not been as universal or as positive as I would have thought it would have been at this point. Now that could change. Like New York could really go for it and really dig it. And I kind of think they will. And it was just an accident, though. When you're talking about Jafar Panahi in that conversation, he's talking with Martin Scorsese. And he's talking not in the small conversation. He's talking in the Alice Tully. So he's talking in the biggest theater here to have that conversation. It is a monumental thing to have that. Like Joachim Trier is talking with Noah Baumbach. They're doing it in the normal place across the street where, Barry Jenkins and Claire Denis will have a conversation and tons of other, great conversations that New York's are going to put on with the creatives. But his is on the main stage in front of a large audience. Neon, I think, and I know that I was just like, well, in terms of who gets in, one or two, Sentimental's pretty locked in, and then followed by it was just an accident. But I can see a world where he built this momentum, just being the Palme d'Or winner and everything, and people being so enthralled with his story and wanting to see this film and how they're both connected. The story is his story, and it's his opinions about his country. So they're very tied to each other. and he gets into director, and then we have a real conversation about, it was just an accident, or is it sentimental value, just like we did at Cannes for the ultimate win. And it's such a strong movie right now, I think. I and yeah, and I'm it's just great that Neon's had him out here, and they've had him at other festivals. He's got such a cool vibe too. We were at the picnic, and he's just standing out there amongst all these people getting their double burgers, and he's just smoking cigarettes and just he looks like a badass, like a rock star out
He
there. So
does.
yeah, I kind of feel like that one has secretly the passion just for him, and that passion, like Sophia said, bleeds over, I think, into the film.
Well, and
I
it's
do
also
think though I'll
very,
say that Sentimental has a lot of passion still. Like it
yeah,
really it placed at TIFF. It's had this kind of like just solid, steady passion building throughout the entire season.
True,
it
true.
is very clear though that Neon's priority is with Accident. They took their Palm winner, and it's Panay that's got the main talk here at New York. He's getting regional awards. He's going to be in Mill
Hmm.
Valley and then fly across the country to Middleburg and get one there. That isn't happening in the same way with Trier and with Sentimental Valley. But I will say, if Sentimental had won the Palm, we'd be seeing that happen for him instead.
Totally.
So they're playing kind of what they did with Honora last year, where they didn't hesitate, and they knew exactly what they had, and they ran with it the entire time. So there's even a case to be made potentially that Accident is stronger than Sentimental Value, even if that film gets other things like the acting nominations that we expect
Yeah.
it to get. There's a case to be made in that, I think,
I
that
I
is
I
that is
I,
building.
I totally agree. I
Yeah,
100% agree. And
yeah.
I think that they they know how to really, really push their Palme d'Or winners, and they've done a really good job with it.
So outside of those three, if we had to choose two right now that we think are getting in, who is it? Sophie, I'll let you go first.
I'm I'm gonna go with the voice of Henry Job and as a little sneaky fifth, left-handed girl. Because I think that people who watch it will really like it. This was one of my favorite movies that I saw at TIFF. I really enjoyed it. And I think sometimes we get in international feature and in documentary specifically, we sometimes have these really hard-hitting films about really serious topics. And I think this has some of that, but it's also a really sweet film. I love the protagonist here, the titular left-handed girl. And I don't know, I think it could really charm some voters. So that's what I'm going to go with right now.
I think those are really excellent choices for that reason, because when we look at this category and how people see the category in the films, they are very serious things. It's like documentary. It's like you're
Yeah.
you're not going to see a happy documentary get in. It's
Hmm.
it's it's just that's just not how the game is played. So to have something like Left-Handed Girl be there to sort of represent a slightly different genre and example, I think really works. And I think it's sort of the reason bringing it back to No Other Choice being such a kind of over the top satire
Hmm.
that maybe it won't play as well, or yeah, I don't think that it will. I don't think it'll play as well. It might feel too goofy, to use the word that I kind of felt about it. Um, and maybe just not the right vibe at the time. I don't know. But yeah, Hinge
Yeah.
Job makes a whole lot of sense. I can absolutely see that as well. I'd love for Sound of Falling to be a choice here. I I hope more and most people see that, because it,
Yeah.
it would
I
be it'd be
really
incredible
hope
here.
so.
I would I
Yeah, I
would
hope
love
so
that.
too. I think with Left-Handed Girl, another thing that's benefiting it possibly is that it's really easy to watch. It's under 2 hours. So again, if you're just on that screening platform where you're prioritizing things, and I know that, for the people who end up voting, they do watch the entire shortlist. I think if this does get shortlisted, I think it could potentially build up a lot of passion and goodwill opposed to some of the heavier watches. But I am rooting for Sound of Falling to get in.
Yeah.
That's still one of my favorites of the year and one that has really stuck with me since Cannes and played, honestly, surprisingly well at TIFF. I was a bit concerned about its appearance there just because I didn't necessarily see it as a film that would play with that audience, but I heard some really positive things about it there. Also heard about some walkouts. That's okay too. But I
Mm.
think it'll play really well at NYFF. I think it's going to do really well with the crowd here, and they'll really appreciate its, experimentation with form. But yeah, it's a good category though. I feel like we have a lot of really strong films on this list.
I think so too. Ryan, what do you think? Who would you put in your next two here?
I put it in Left-Handed Girl because of the Netflix factor. I
Yeah.
think that you can't ignore that. They are going to be solely focused on that thing from here on out, which is very great for them. And then I'm going to go Sound of Falling because I do think it's a film that really plays with the form and something that I think that they really could go for. And I think that the international branch would really go for. So, and I know that yes, that no other choice is like it's a little sillier and goofier, right, Eric, than his last film, but I mean, they nominated and gave a win to a man who like had literally people throwing up on a boat. So like I'm not going to say that anything's not goofy or not crazy enough in terms of when you're making a satire anymore. Like I think that those days are kind of in all honesty, it's tamer than a movie like that, than Triangle of Sadness or even, Parasite to a certain extent, which kind of like it loosely compares to, but I don't think that they're too far in terms of comparison. It would be interesting to see about once again it can carrying its momentum. But yeah, Sound of Falling, Left-Handed Girl, they seem about right because they're going to be the primary focuses for their respective studios. So, and then I do think Mysterious Gaze of the Flamingo, just off a name alone, is the movie that could sneak in there and we'd be like, oh my God, it's there. Remember when we all tried to see it? In like
That's
9 o'clock in
that's
the
I
morning
mean,
again.
if I had my druthers, that's the one that I would pick of that I really want to get in. It's Chile who has already won for Fantastic Woman. This is another uh
Mm.
trans story, which is
Yeah.
fantastic that they are really kind of at the forefront of these as their submissions, but it's I think it also has just an extremely timely element to it, even though it takes place in the 80s. It feels very relevant. So I would love to see that happen too. Let's move on to a bit of a preview of the New York Film Festival. We're recording this just a few days before it officially kicks off, but we are here watching press screenings of films before the festival proper starts. We've also been screening One Battle After Another multiple times before it starts. We'll get to that in just a moment because it is really a part of kind of what's happening with these festivals right now, where Warner Brothers, who have had just an incredible box office year and critical year with seven movies in a row, earning over $40 million in their opening weekends. That's never happened before, and just really uh, doing something that nobody else has been able to do. And when One Battle started screening in the middle of TIFF, that dominated the conversation. People just talked about One Battle, even though it was only a couple of LA screenings at the time. And now it's really opened up and it's screened several times here at New York during this press screening week. And again, I talk to people, and that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about the new Lob Diaz that they saw. Sorry, Lob Diaz. They're talking about Paul Thomas Anderson, which is kind of amazing. It's really impressive. And both Sophia and I have seen it, and we did get to talk a little bit about it on the last pod. But since then, Ryan, you have been able to see it, and I will give you 30 seconds on the clock.
30 seconds on the clock. We were right. Never doubt PTA. The movie's amazing. Truly one of the more, like, the more I think about it, beautiful, stunning, provocative, introspective films. I think the movie's kind of getting labeled as a father-daughter movie, and I think it should be labeled as something else, which is a mother-daughter movie sneakily, than anything else
As
spiritually.
opposed to a father, mother, brother, sister movie.
Exactly. Nobody wants, yeah,
Okay,
nobody, yeah, exactly.
got
That
it.
centerpiece. I know. I think it truly is more. Those female characters are so integral to the storyline. Sean Penn's incredible. Leo's incredible. This movie looks incredible in VistaVision. That's how I got to see it. I think you guys have seen it in VistaVision as well.
Hmm.
It's really Anderson kind of doing the the great things that we love about him, the thorniness and the funny side of him is really out with this movie. This movie is hilarious, and yet it's all connected back to this really emotional storyline. And no, it's not, it's not, going to be, I think, divisive, or it doesn't have a gun in every scene like some people think it is. Like, it's truly the right way to make a movie like this. And there's a lot of his contemporaries, odes to his contemporaries in there. There's also a lot of odes to Jonathan Demme. We will have more thoughts on this. I'll have even better thoughts because I've seen the film twice when we do next Monday's release of Director Watch, which is a special episode that Sophia, Eric, myself, and Jay will be doing and releasing. But yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying. It is the movie of the year. It's the movie of the decade. It's that another defining moment in cinema from Paul Thomas Anderson. And
All
yeah, I
right.
just absolutely loved it. And I can't and we it to Eric's point, it is the movie we have been talking about literally this entire time since I've seen it. There's
Yeah.
no other film that matters, like, really. And that's what Sophia and I kind of predicted, was that we'd get to this festival and everybody would be talking about this movie. And it kind of was weirdly a kickoff at the Walter Reed, even though it was an unofficial official selection. It had a secret screening at Fantastic Fest, and that played from my sources there on in Austin. It played through the roof. It was a movie that people were hollering and cheering for. A perfect
Shocking.
movie for that audience. No, for that audience, it's perfect, honestly. Yeah, I mean, it's the movie that's of the year, and it's gonna remain that way.
All right. Well, that was a little more than 30 seconds.
I don't care. I break my own
So,
rules around here.
And I'm gonna
le-
say too, I think daughters watching it will see it also as a father-daughter story.
yes.
As a yeah, I think
Okay,
it's
well,
no, just because
all
that's what I
right,
wrote in
well,
my review too. I think it is like it's
Yes.
well,
a very
everyone's been
strong father-daughter
Absolutely.
story, but
sure.
also connected to the women at the same time. That's what I think makes it so brilliant.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Well, looking at what the New York Film Festival has lined up for us in the coming 3 months of this festival, because it is so very, very long. It's not a big world premiere festival, but there are two world premieres that we're going to talk about before we sort of look at festival trajectories and which films have skipped certain festivals to come to here. And so the first we're going to talk about, even though we can't really talk too much about it, is Ronan Day-Lewis's Anemone, which both Sophia and I saw last night, but we can't talk about it really until September 28th. I will just say, I think that he has a potentially great career ahead of him as a filmmaker. He is a very, very visually driven storyteller. There's a bit of a music video quality to it. I'll bet that's as far as I can really say. Uh, Shocking, Fork Fountain Kitchen, Daniel Day-Lewis is great.
I thought when you were saying he had like a really good career, I thought you were going saying that about Daniel Day-Lewis for half a second.
No,
Like
I'm talking about
he's got a
Ronan,
good career ahead of
The
himself.
other Day-Lewis
the other
involved.
Day-Lewis.
No, I know.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is fantastic. Monologues for days. Fans of the man will be very happy. And as the Daniel Day-Lewis correspondent, I'm here to report. I have good news for everyone
Hmm.
Well,
who's
wait,
excited for
well,
this movie.
And
well.
I think it'll play well here. It opens, I think, October 3rd. That AMC at Lincoln with that three-story full city block poster is insane.
It's
I've never
intimidating.
seen anything like that. Certainly not for a
It's
movie
beautiful.
He's
like
looming
that.
over
It's
the best actor
incredible.
contenders.
He's really doing that.
Just
He's
floating.
knocking them down.
They should, if
Um,
Focus Features was smart, they get that like photo of him and they put it on a balloon in the Macy's Day Parade and just have him float over like Timothy Chalamet's apartment, here in town. Like that would be kind of
wow,
badass, you
that
know.
is not something I thought of.
Timothy did say he wanted to be like him in his SAG speech. So,
Well, he
Yes.
wishes. So
He also said Viola Davis, so I can't
didn't he
wait
say like
for
Michael
him to take
Jordan?
roles from her.
Yeah, and yeah, he's gonna lace him up like Mike. So
Yeah. But so that will screen pretty soon. The other world premiere is The
is
Closer, and
is
that
this is
is
this is
oh
this
my
thing
God.
on?
Wow.
Is this thing on? Testing,
Unfortunately, it is, but I can
testing.
mute you right now, so then it wouldn't be. Yes, it is Bradley Cooper's next film. Is This Thing On? With Will Arnett and Andra Day and Laura Dern. I think there is,
And Bradley Cooper.
and Bradley Cooper is also in it, yes, in
Yes,
a supporting role.
in a
I'm
hat.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. I don't rarely feel too positive about anything that world premieres at New York. No offense to New York. It's just generally not usually the starting off point. Even though it's going to be playing a bunch of other festivals pretty quickly, right after it's here on the 12th, I think it is, right? That's the closing. Um, it, I don't know. I love Cooper's films. He is absolutely two for two for me. I think he is incredible. So I I'd be shocked if it wasn't a good film, but I don't really know what to take from it, and certainly not as a world premiere closer. Sophia,
Yeah.
what do you think?
The closing night slot is tough sometimes when we think about films that have premiered in this slot before, but I did hear that it wasn't finished in time for some other festivals, so I think that could maybe explain it. I'm excited to see Bradley Cooper, I think, step out of the prestige drama side of things because he's very funny. Like when I think about some of the roles where I was introduced to him, like Wedding Crashers, or even recently, like how he was in Licorice Pizza, I think he has a knack for comedy. So I'm curious to see how he tackles that here, as opposed to something like Maestro, which I think I really enjoyed. I really like Maestro, but I think there were people who approached that with a lot of cynicism and vitriol because they thought it was, oh, look at Bradley Cooper demanding an Oscar and wanting that kind of attention. And this isn't that. So I think I'm just curious to see how it will play. And I'm hopeful that it's good, even though Bradley Cooper in this movie looks like a sleep paralysis demon. So I'm hoping that it's I'm hoping it's great.
And the film is inspired by the life and comedy stand-up of John Bishop, a UK comedian. Will Arnett is not British and not British in this, so the basis of it is pretty loose. So that's something I'm maybe even more curious about it all at of all of it is that it's an adaptation, but Americanized, but how is that going to play? Ryan, what do you think?
I think it could be a really interesting opportunity for Bradley Cooper because I do think that a lot of people really just bashed him for Maestro, a movie that I really like. I think we all really liked it, honestly. And in a movie that I didn't understand the people have made these prestige dramas before. Um it seemed very personal. Most of his films feel very personal. I think it's interesting to turn it, actually, Eric, to your point, into an um American comedy scene, because it's such a weird, vibrant, at times even disgusting enterprise that's going on right now in this country. And I think that Cooper has the ability as a director maybe to showcase that a little bit and see a little bit of that underbelly. And it does look really good visually, I will say, from that trailer. It'll be mostly, I guess, what's on the page. It kind of honestly is like a little bit back to what he was doing with A Star Is Born, where that's with the music scene, and this is with the comedy scene, and in a destructive relationship at the core of it. But Will Arnett is actually the more curious thing I have about this movie, because Will Arnett is a very important person in Bradley Cooper's life. This is a person that essentially saved him, got him sober, and he owes a lot to Will Arnett, and to see him be the lead of what is going to be a dramedy is very interesting for me. So that's the part of all this that I'm really curious about. To Sophia's point, the last two closers have been Ferrari, which is a movie that some people like and some people don't. And then there's a movie that was from Steve McQueen last year called Blitz that no one that people saw and then don't remember. So it'll be very interesting to see it as a closer, because the opener is very divisive in After the Hunt.
Yeah, we'll talk about
And
that in a
then
second for
yeah,
sure.
and then the centerpieces are a little bit divisive, or also just kind of dubious about their wins at Venice. This one does, I think, have the element to surprise, and
Yeah.
and also
And
be
maybe this is
something.
the opportunity for Cooper to actually rein it in.
That's what
And
I. Oh, that's a very good point, Eric. Very
and
good.
quite literally, this looks like something that is going to be on such a less grand scale than his first two films, and
I think
I
that's
think that will
okay.
work. I think it'll work to his advantage for his
Yeah.
detractors,
Yes. Kind
as
of back
much
to
as it
basic.
possibly can.
Yeah. Back to basics, which is
Yes.
fine.
So as you mentioned, the opener is Luca Guadagnino's After the Hunt, which was uh, played out of competition at Venice and was absolutely savaged to death. Um, so I'm a little I wonder. I've never disliked a Guadagnino film, so it would be alarming if it was bad. Um, I did think that the second trailer, which was just released this week, was pretty spectacular. And I don't know. We'll see. Sometimes when we go from festival to festival, those responses are very different.
Hmm.
Like the things that we saw at Cannes that had maybe a quieter reception at Telluride or TIFF. Um, it's a different audience. It's a very, very different audience makeup. And I don't know, Sophia, if you how you identify a New York Film Festival audience member compared to others. Do you find them more discerning? Is it more, does it feel like more a festival for academics?
That's what I'm really curious about, actually, how this will play, because I think that the critics here will probably respond similarly to the ones in Venice. I think that that is just kind of the writings on the wall there, potentially. But I think with audiences, these New York Film Festival, so it's really spread across the five boroughs, really with different venues, but this festival is really for New Yorkers. The screenings are at night and on the weekends. Like, it is a festival for people who live in this city, who come to the Upper West Side or the other locations to see it. And I think, yes, academics are a part of that. I think older Film at Lincoln Center members are a part of that. People who, this is a core part of their fall experience. And I don't think they're going to be as harsh on this as the critics necessarily. I think that topically, it's right in their wheelhouse. It feels like a very New York movie, just in the topics it's addressing. It's a really starry movie too. I think with Julia Roberts being at the center. And I don't know, I think that there is something to, last year they did something a little bit more avant-garde with Nickel Boys being the opener. And this year, I think something that is a little bit more of a straightforward drama. I don't think audiences will really mind that it's just tar light, really. I think they might actually like that. So I think it actually has the potential to see what we saw a little bit at Telluride with Jay Kelly, which is that people thought this is the movie people thought was bad at Venice. I think that's really possible here.
Yeah, I'm so kind of baffled with Venice the last couple of years in in some of the responses to films, and then when they go to even immediately to Telluride or pop over to TIFF a few weeks later, that we see such a dramatically different opinion. Granted, TIFF is, pretty much takes everybody, and it's a very wide berth of types of press. Yeah, Venice is seemingly, I don't know, maybe a little bit on the negative side more than it recently has been. Ryan, what do you think?
About Venice.
Well,
Um,
just about that crossover and about the potential for After the Hunt to be able to rebound here.
I don't think it's going to rebound here very well. I think that this movie, Eric, you said you saw the second trailer the other day, right? That they just
Yes,
released,
I loved it.
and you loved it, and I was like, oh, this is even worse.
Oh, I
I
haven't
thought
watched it
Really?
yet. I'm trying
I
to
thought the second
stay away.
trailer was it showed more of the conflict, and it showed more of the sappiness and the melodrama that's inside of this thing, and it's not
I
going to
didn't see
be see.
sappiness and melodrama. I saw cunning and deceit and Julia Roberts being an absolutely like really good evil queen.
I saw more of Iowa Debris' performance also in it too, which I think could be a
I
problem.
could have seen less of
Um,
that.
yeah, exactly. And less of Andrew Garfield too, and less of Michael Stuhlbarg in there. I'm
I
like,
would have
no,
liked to see more
like they're
Chloe
not.
Sevigny
Yeah, well, whatever's
As Kim.
going on, yeah, as Kim.
as
Uh,
Kim.
but but no, I think of this movie, less of like Tar. Its vibes are supposed to be like it feels like of Tar and be very serious, but like they played May December 2 years ago when I was here, and that's a movie that's very introspective, but also, has its dark comedic tentacles in it as well. This is not, I think, going to be like that, and so I do think that there could be. It's going to play the opening night, and it's just playing the opening night like 5 or 6 times like it normally does, and I think it's going to be massively mixed, and it's going to be very. I think that this is where it's going to be like, okay, we had our time with that, and then we move on to the other screenings and international selections. I think the international selections are really going to dominate this New York Film Festival for people. I think that there's
Yeah,
going to be some big titles
yeah.
that will, like I think the Netflix titles will do well. Like I think Jake Kelly, if you're going to talk about a bounce back, I think that's going to do very well here more than After the Hunt. I think House of Dynamite should probably do pretty well here. Um, and I think the other one that'll probably do really well because it's in a little bit of a hometown discount is Springsteen. Like I think that will do. I think that'll do well just because people love Bruce. And
And he'll be
so
here, so that
and he'll
that
be
that
here. So
component will elevate
and they'll
it.
do a Q&A and everybody will love it. Like you're going to have so many
Hmm.
Bruce fans in the building that like even if some of like the more art house fair audience members don't go for it, you'll have the t-shirt the Bruce t-shirt wearing crowd audience like on their
Well,
ready
I
to
think
go
they're
for
the
it.
ones who are going to go to the
Yeah,
screening. I don't think the
exactly.
art house people are
No,
paying
I don't.
the that
No.
ticket price for that movie.
No, for sure.
It's going to be the
So
fans who are lining up to see Bruce in the room.
and that's what'll be very interesting about that film is like we talked about that at Telluride is like that movie is like in the 6 to 10 range, battling for that one of those spots in picture and other categories. But I mean, having Bruce at Q&As with Jeremy Allen White, it's going to be a good like recipe for that campaign throughout the year.
Yeah, and I mean, just to close out After the Hunt, I think it's in a position where it can only go up really from here. So if it even has, some marginal praise, it's gonna,
Sure. I just
pump a
think
little bit
of
of life into it. But I do
yeah,
think that the can titles that are here are
just going to dominate.
really going to
Yeah.
to come back in a big way.
Secret
This
Agent really
this
placed it
is
like the next night, I think. And
this is the festival for that. Yeah, and I
yeah,
always, wonder about these titles that play on the first day or two of a very long festival, and how quickly they can kind of fall behind in somebody's mind when they're watching three movies a day.
yeah.
That's I don't know, but
Eric,
I do
this
I do think the can titles will do well here.
this is Amazon MGM, right? Correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yeah,
Okay. Word to the wise out there, Amazon MGM. Switch to Hedda. That's the better film, and that's the movie they should push, not this one. Like, and it's kind of uh, you know, it, Lucasfilms haven't done well in Oscar races, so maybe don't in the forward we're gonna have to really, really think about that. Even though on paper this sounded really good, and maybe we're surprised. We haven't seen the film yet. We're gonna see it opening night. I'm Sophia and Eric know this. I don't like going to a movie for 2 hours and and not liking it. I hope that everything's good. But I'm very nervous because that second trailer didn't work for me as much as it did for you, Eric. So
interesting.
If it's bad, I hope it's bad in a fun way.
yeah, I hope so. I
Yeah,
need things to like, for us to like giggle about because like that's the only way to get through movies like that. Because if you're just straight a boring movie, then like the Smashing Machine, then I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean?
as long as it's not the Smash Machine, it'll be a success.
It,
I did
Um,
laugh a bit in the Smashing Machine, though.
oh,
Unwarranted
I
laughter, but
I definitely laughed a lot too, but definitely not
you were like, it
intentional.
was like a laugh of like, what am I doing here?
Um, you alluded to and mentioned, and we did mention by name, Father, Brother, Sister, Mother, the Jim Jarmusch film that won the Golden Lion at Venice from the Alexander Payne
Sure.
uh led jury. And that is the centerpiece here. That was a shock win, amongst the things that it was competing against, and certainly that did not place at all in the
Yeah.
Venice competition prizes. So I feel like Jarmusch here is an audience fit. It's a New York audience fit in a way that for Venice, it was like an Alexander Payne fit and really no one else. So the reviews I read for it and that we had were nice. They were modest, but that it was just like a mid tier Jarmusch, nothing really special. So I wonder if once it is here, if if it will be one of those that that we do kind of see quite a bit, where a festival response, when it goes from one to the other, will get the audience of the feeling, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought, or oh wow, this is not as good as everybody hyped it to be. So I wonder where that is going to lie. I don't think it has really either side on it in terms of that. So I feel like it'll be semi-successful here.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Sophia what she thought about that because of and what she heard because after we left Eric last year was when the room next door where people got to see it, and that
hmm.
was the winner last year. And so I'm curious, Sophia, what you think. Do you think that there would be kind of like what you guys had and I had with Smashing Machine, where we went in with like, this is the director win, and you walk out and you go, what how the fuck did that win? So do you think that there could be, no, I mean, I know that
No, I'm
that's
laughing because I
silly,
went down the escalator and started cursing Alexander Payne's name after seeing the Smashing
but do you
Machine.
think that that's a
Yeah.
possibility here with this film too, of being like hyped up because of its win and that be a little bit of like a deterrent?
Possibly. I mean, I think that people who are paying really close attention to Venice, though, were shocked by this win and don't see it necessarily as a marker of, oh, this is the best film in the festival, just because of how closely we're talking about, oh, why didn't No Other Choice win? Why didn't Hind Rajab win? Why
Hmm.
didn't, I don't know, a number of things. But
Testament
I
of
think that
Manly, stuff like that.
Testament of
Yeah.
Manly, sure. I think that this one, though, will still play, even though, maybe it's not and we haven't seen it yet, right? So I don't know. I
Yeah.
could love
No.
it.
Yeah.
But with the Golden Lion, I think obviously that brings a lot of, prestige to it. But I think just based on the story type, the director, the actors involved, like this being about family dynamics, focusing on these three characters and their relationships with their children, their adult children, talking about aging, parents. These are like that film on paper, like that
That
sounds like
sounds
something that is a very
very,
NYFF movie.
yeah, it does.
So I think people will really like it. I mean, I think that's my perception at
And he's a
least,
friend of the
but
fest, right? And his films
exactly.
have played there before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it could be very interesting. I don't think there will be like a negative thing.
Hmm.
But I do think that there would be a bit like, huh, that was the winner.
Yeah.
More like
Especially
more like a
with,
blase sort of thing. Like, oh,
yeah.
okay, well,
Well, and with Room Next Door, there was a weird thing that happened with that one where I think it was I remember hearing very polarizing
yeah,
receptions or polarized receptions to that where people like I loved it. I thought it was
yeah,
great. And then I talked to other people who were like, what was going on with the script? What
yeah.
was happening with some of those performances? And I was like, I
People
don't know,
were
it was
really
great. It all worked for
hard.
me.
People were really hard last year at NYFF on things. So it will be curious, critic and audience, to
Hmm.
see if that vibe carried over. Because it was like, I mean, there were people that were kind of rough on Maria, and there were definitely people rough on Amelia Perez. And really, once again, like the two movies that played really well there were Nickel Boys and Honora. And so it'll be interesting to see. Like we've kind of said, I think the can titles will do well. I think some films will bounce back, but there are going to be probably one or two that just gets pushed a little bit by the wayside. And I definitely, I think that there could just be like a shrug reaction, like not bad, not good, and then and they're like, well, good for Jim, and then move on and go to dinner. You know what I mean? So
I mean, yeah, maybe it's the centerpiece of the festival, so I do think that it'll have a lot of attention, but I'll be it'll be fun to come back once the festival is done to
yeah,
really be able to have a wrap up conversations
yep,
about what you guys heard from everyone around you in the actual festival proper, because up to this point we are just doing press screening stuff, but that also is sort of there
yeah,
are patrons, I guess, essentially in there as well.
yeah. Second week will be a great test to see because the
Yeah,
first couple of weeks of the critic screenings, people will see those. We'll go to a couple of things, and yeah, and then that'll really open up. The festival really opens up starting on Friday.
yeah. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this for today, and we'll definitely be coming back with more Oscar specific and category specific conversations in the coming weeks, and definitely very soon. And as mentioned earlier, the Director Watch episode of One Battle After Another, which I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so, in that meantime, Sophia, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Sophia_Sim, Blue Sky Letterboxd at Sophia Sim. You can find my reviews, including one on One Battle After Another, and more interviews, podcasts at AwardsWatch.
And Ryan.
Well, you can find me on the streets of New York trying to charge my cell phone or during NYFF, or you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterbox, Blue Sky, Ryan McQuade 77. If you like podcasts, yes, the Director Watch podcast on Monday will be about one battle after another. But Thursday, tomorrow, we have another Ozu. Is Good Morning, myself and Jay, and it's a really good episode. And so we will be releasing that out and continuing that series. iTunes, Spotify, 5-star reviews. While you're on the website, please sign up for the newsletter. Eric puts us together at least once or twice a week. And this is the right time to do it because of all the festival stuff, all the interviews that'll be coming up, everything getting sent to you all in one place. And that's over at awardswatch.com.
Yep. And like I mentioned, Ryan, you'll be covering Middleburg over on the East Coast. I'll be covering Bell
Yes.
Valley on the West Coast
Oh my God.
after.
It never stops.
I mean, I'm doing that during New York Film Festival, and then Middleburg is after that, mid-October, and then we
And
go
then
right to
to AFI.
AFI, and the fun never
And
stops.
then we all get to rest.
How
Um,
many
In
times will I see one battle after another on my little festival break between NYFF and AFI?
exactly.
Hmm.
it's a good question.
I mean,
Over
if
under
the
at
goal
20.
the goal
Um,
to see it in as many formats as
Yeah.
possible
that
is
is true.
kind of a cool goal.
That's the
Hmm.
goal, honestly, in between screenings here is to see it as many formats as possible.
It
Because
is.
this is the best place to see all the formats, honestly.
It is. It is. And you can find me at awardswatch.com. Socials are awards watch everywhere except for Twitter, which is awards underscore watch.
You gotta get
And
that fixed. You gotta get it fixed.
what am I gonna do at Elon? I already called him a pedophile,
Sure.
so I
Well,
don't think that's gonna really,
well, that might get him over the top. You never know.
well, it might. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yes, until then, thank you everybody for listening. Goodbye.